Hey, what's going on everyone, and happy Friday. It's Ali here, and in today's video I'm going to share with you how to create custom transitions using masks. And make sure to stay around until the end of the video because I have some great news that I'm going to share with you or reveal by the end of the video. So again, make sure to stick around until the end of the video. And without further ado, let's dive right into this. Before I get into the tutorial, there's a tip that I want to share with you today, especially for those who are working with smaller screens on their laptop, or they've got a PC with a small screen. Usually when you have CreateStudio opened up like this and you're inside a project, you have your canvas in full screen like this, and you open up my files, it simply just overlaps your canvas, and it takes a whole lot, sometimes 20, 30, or 40% of your canvas, in which you can't see the entire canvas in full screen. So there are two ways of adjusting your canvas size or its position, where you can see your canvas in full screen and make it just go away from your media files area. So one tip is, when you have this opened up, when you have your My Files opened up like this, you can click on the letter F on your keyboard, and it's going to resize and center your canvas, making it go away out, from your media files or your studio. That way, when you open up your studio or your media files, it's not going to overlap your screen, so you can see your canvas in full screen. The other way is, let's say, in order to adjust your canvas position or size, you can use your wheel on your mouse to resize your canvas like that, up and down. But we're talking about position here. So I'm going to select the hand icon right here, and I'm going to move it back underneath the My Files area. So this is another way of doing that. You could just, when you have the hand icon selected, you simply just drag your canvas away from your My Files right here. And then when you're done, make sure to select the cursor or the selection tool. That way you're able to adjust your elements on your canvas. So that's just a workaround of doing that. So again, for those who are working with on their laptops or their PCs with a smaller screen, make sure when you have this opened up, you click on the letter F, and it's going to resize and center the canvas just away from your My Files. And when you're done, when you close it out, you click on the letter F one more time, and it's going to center it back on your screen, right? Now, let's dive into the tutorial and show you how to create custom transitions. And I'm going to start from scratch. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this, and then I'm going to open up My Files one more time. And you can already see that I have a couple of images that I've got from Pixabay. So feel free to use any image that you like, depending on the project that you're working with. So I'm going to start with dragging this image into the canvas like that. And then I want this to stay for 3 seconds. So I'm going to adjust its length in the timeline and make it for 3 seconds like this. I'm going to hit Control Delete just to delete the excess tracks on my timeline. And then what I want to do is I want to add a scale animation for my image. So I'm going to click on this button to move one frame forward. And then I have two ways of adding custom animation in that would be scale. One is to click on the letter S on your keyboard when you have the image selected, and that will open up properties. Basically just make your selection for scale. And then for the easing, I'll choose linear for both in and out. The other way is, when you have your image selected, you can click on the add animation button right here on the timeline. And this will open up the properties. That way you can choose the animation that you'd like to apply. And then you choose the easing and you're done, right? So now that I have created or chosen my scale animation, I'm just going to select, so selecting my first keyframe. Basically, I'm not going to make any changes to my image. I'll just simply click on the second keyframe, and I'm going to go under settings and then increase the scale, make my image zoom in like this, right? And then next up is I'm going to drag the second keyframe. So I'm going to hold left click with my mouse, drag it all the way to the end of the image, right, at 3 seconds. So when I go back and then play this, this is how it's going to look like. This is how it's going to scale up. Now, what I want to do next is select this image, right click it, and then group it. And that would simply be my scene number 1. So I'm going to right click it again, rename, and then call this scene 1. Now, my scene number 2 will start at 2 seconds, right? So I'm going to move my playhead backward in time at 2 seconds. And then I'm going to go open up my media files one more time. And I'm gonna drag the other image that I downloaded, this one. So drag and drop it into my canvas like that. And I want you to pay attention from this moment on until the end of the tutorial, because it's, it may get a little bit tricky, but once you understand it, it's going to be very, very easy and simple to create, right? So what I'm going to do is I would like to have, 5 duplicates of this image, and I'm going to tell you why in a second. But let's just go ahead and start with duplicating this image. So I have 2 ways of doing that. Whether I can hit Control D and it will just simply, duplicate my image, or I could just select or click on the duplicate button in the timeline to create my duplicates. So let's see how 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I need another one. So I have 5 images or 5 duplicates of the same image, and I'm gonna tell you why in a second. But that would be my first step in creating scene number 2. Next up is I'm gonna go and open up my shapes and then click on a rectangle, rounded rectangle, and then scale this up to make it a full width. And then I'm gonna change its color to purple like that. And for the shape, I would like to duplicate it 5 times as well. So I need to have 5 layers of my rectangle shape right here. So again, I'm gonna click on the duplicate button. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I have 5. So let's just expand my timeline like this. And then I'm going to select all 5 layers of my rectangle, right click, and then group this one. And for this one, and again, I want you to pay attention to this. So I'm going to duplicate my group of rectangles twice. So I'm going to click on the duplicate in the timeline like this, 1 and 2. And again, you'll know this, you'll understand why I'm doing this in a second when I get to it. So let's just worry about the first thing I want to do. So I'm going to go ahead and ungroup this one again. So I have my rectangles, and next up is I'm going to go ahead and rename each one. So I'll select the first rectangle, rename it, and then call this number 1, rename this one number 2, that would be number 3, and this one will be number 4, and last one would be number 5. Cool. Next up is, let me just go ahead and resize my timeline like this. And then I'm going to open up my grid menu and then turn this on. I'm going to turn on the snap to grid menu on. That way I can resize my rectangles or my shapes better because I have a grid that just helps me with that. And let's go ahead and start with layer number 1. So I'm going to resize this one and make it this size like this. And then I'm going to do the same for all of them. So I'll just resize this one as well from both left and right. Make sure that they're all even in size. So we now have 3. Oops. Let's just undo this and make sure it gets back. Okay, so let's go ahead and resize it like this. Number 4. Like that. And then last one is going to be right here. Cool. All right. So now that I've, again, I simply just resize all my shapes like that. So let me just take those away a little so you can see better, right? This is going to be the size of my shape that I'm going to use as a transition, right? So I'm going to go and make sure that, I line those up right in the timeline again. And let's go ahead and do some masking here with each image. So I'm going to select my first image layer at the bottom right here, hit Control on my keyboard, and then select shape number 1, right click, and then mask this one. Now, next up, so now that I have this masked, the first thing I want to do is I will go under settings, and then I'm going to turn on the detach mask feature, right? And I'll show you why in a second. So turn that on and then do the same for all layers. I'm going to select the second layer of my image with number 2 rectangle, right click, mask this one, and then select it. And again, under settings, I go here, turn on the detach mask for this one, do this for the next one. So the third image was shape number 3, right click, mask, click it again, and then under settings, turn on the detach mask feature. Let's just go ahead and hit Control Delete to delete all the excess tracks. And we're working with image number 4. So select it and select my rectangle number 4, right click, mask, and then I'm gonna select it again, actually this one, and then turn on the detach mask feature. And I'm gonna select my last image layer along with the shape number 5, right click, mask this one, select it again under settings, go to detach mask, and then turn all those away, turn detach mask feature on. And again, I'll show you why in a second. Let's just go get those away for now and resize our canvas. And I'm going to show you exactly how do we want to do this. So first thing is first, we're going to select our first layer of our image right here. And because we have our mask, our image mask with the shape, and the reason why we detached the mask is because we want to animate the mask and keep the image as is, right? So now that I have my first image layer selected, I'll just simply use my keyboard to, move my mask and have it start from the bottom of the screen. And then it's gonna go all the way up on top of or away from the canvas from the top area, right? So to do this, first of all, let's just go ahead and add some custom animations. So for the first layer, I have it selected. I'm gonna go ahead and click on Add Animation. And then I'm gonna go to Properties and select Position. Now for the easing, I'll just keep it smooth as is for both in and out. And then I'm gonna hover over between both keyframes to drag them just a little to the right so I can click on the first keyframe. So now I'm gonna click on the first keyframe. Make sure it's turned in blue. That way, it's selected. And you can see already it's selected in my canvas. So again, I'm gonna use my keyboard and I'm gonna hold shift with the bottom arrow key. And then I'm going to move my mask again all the way down and line it up with my canvas. So let me just scale this down and show you again. So you can see here it's scaled down. I'm sorry, it's positioned underneath the canvas and it's lined up with my canvas from the bottom. Let's click on the letter F to center it back again. And next up is I'm gonna click on the second keyframe, and you can see it's gone back to where it was, but this is not what I wanted. Actually, this is what I wanted, right? Is I wanted to make sure that it comes into the screen like this. So we'll go back in time, moving our playhead backward in time. You can see it's already moving, or it's animating. So I'm going to go back to the first keyframe, and then I'm going to click on the frame forward button right here to move 3 frames forward. So I'm going to click 3 times, 1, 2, 3. So we're basically going to add another custom animation for the second layer 3 frames after the first one, right? So we have it selected. Now I'm going to go ahead and click on Add Animation. Again, we'll go to Properties, select Position. Easing will be as is, smooth for the in and out. And then I'm going to select my first keyframe, and I'll use my keyboard again. So hit Shift and then the bottom arrow key, and then drag this all the way to the bottom and make sure it's lined up with my canvas from the bottom. So when I click on the second keyframe, it just goes back like this. Now, when I play this, you can see that there, one is coming after the other, and there's 3 frames in time difference right here. So let's go back to the first keyframe of my second layer, and then I'm going to start working with the third layer of my image. So I'm going to click on Add Animation for this one, and then I'm going to go to Properties, select Position. Easing will be as is. Again, I forgot to move 3 frames forward. So 1, 2, 3, and then I hover over between both keyframes to drag those forward in time. Click on the first keyframe of my third image, and again with my keyboard, hold Shift and the bottom arrow key to drag this, or move it all the way to the bottom. Make sure it's lined up with this one. Next up, I'm going to start working with the fourth image. So again, I'm going to move 3 frames forward, 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to select or click on Add Animation. Properties will be Position. Easing will be as is. Select my first keyframe, and with my keyboard, hold Shift and the bottom arrow key to move my shape all the way down. Make sure it's lined up with my canvas from the bottom again. And last one, so we'll do this. So 1, 2, 3, and then we'll select the last one, click Add Animation, right? And then I'm going to click on Position. Easing will be as is, as we said. So clicking on the first keyframe. And then I'm going to drag all the way down to the bottom underneath the canvas frame. So when I go back and then start playing this, this is how it's going to look like, right? You can see how beautiful this is becoming. Let's actually go back and turn off the snap to grid menu. We don't need that anymore. So here we go. This is how it's going to look like when it's being animated, right? So next up is we need to go ahead and create our transition, and the transition will be exactly, just like the shapes. And, let's just go ahead and group this up. First of all, group all those image layers like this. So select all layers, and I'm going to group them up like that. And then I'm going to grab both groups that I have had created previously. And let's go ahead and ungroup this one. Now there's an easier way, of course, when you do this, that after you resize your shape, or actually before you resize your shape, you can create, 3 groups with 5 layers of your shapes for each one. And then you can duplicate it 3 times. And then that way you're going to save yourself a whole lot of time. But for me, I just forgot the step. So I have to do this, on each group. So I'm going to ungroup. So let's just make this group go away for now. And I'm going to ungroup this one right here. And actually I can do this when I resize this one. So let's just go ahead and turn on the grid menu back again, snap to grid. We'll select the first one and resize it to like this. Click on the second one, and then we're going to resize it like that. Like this. I'm going to work with the third one. So it's going to be right here, and here we go. Fourth one. And that will be right here. And the last one will be right there. Cool. All right, let's actually delete the other group, because I can simply just, group all those up like this, and then make a duplicate of this one now that I have resized it to save some time, right? So now let's go ahead and animate those ones. So first thing is first, we will need to use the first group. So this one will be the mask. So I'm going to rename it, right click, rename it, and then call it mask images like this. And that will be transition 1. And this one will be transition number 2. Right? And this one, so I'm going to, first of all, so I have it selected, and then I need to change the opacity of the colors. And before I do this, and instead of just changing the opacity of the colors on each one individually, what I can do is when I have the group selected, I can click on the gear icon right here that is just right next to the open group button. When I click on that, I can just link all those images together like this. And that way, when I have my group selected, and then I go to not properties, actually settings, and then on the color, and let's just change the opacity, decrease the opacity a little. You might not be able to see this, but here you can see this right now. So it's basically adjusting the opacity for all the images like that. See that? When I adjust the opacity, it just adjusts the opacity for all the layers together like this. And then next one, we'll keep it at 100% opacity, but we want to change the time and difference in our animation, right? So we're gonna go into the first one, right? And then we're gonna start animating each one individually. So right now I have my my first one selected, and then I'm gonna click on add animation, and I'm gonna do position. Well, easing will be as is, smooth, right? So I'm gonna move my keyframes a little to the right so I can click on the first keyframe of the first one. And again, with my keyboard, I'm going to hold Shift and simply just drag this all the way down like that. And then when I select the second keyframe, I don't want it to stay on the screen. So I'm going to use my keyboard again, hold Shift on the top arrow key, and then make this go all the way up and make sure it's also lined up on my canvas like that, right? Now I'm going to go back right here, and I want to make sure that my playhead is in the middle of the first keyframe of my first shape, right? And then I'm going to move 3 frames forward. So 1, 2, 3. I'll select this, the second layer, click on Add Animation. So do position as well. Easing is going to be as is for the whole time, right? So I'm going to select the first keyframe of my second layer. With my keyboard, I'm going to hold Shift, the bottom arrow key, move this all the way down, make sure it's lined up with my canvas from the bottom. Click on the second keyframe, and then I'm going to make sure I want this to go up all the way to the top and also lined up with my canvas just like that. So I'll go back again on the first keyframe of my second layer and then move 3 frames forward. So 1, 2, 3, select my third keyframe, third layer of my triangle or rectangle, I'm sorry. And then click on Add Animation, position, click on the first keyframe, and then I'm going to, oops. Okay, so this one needs to go down also all the way to the bottom like this, and it's lined up with my canvas. Click on the second keyframe, and this will go all the way up like that. Right? Go back again, right? On the first keyframe of my third layer, and then move 3 frames forward. So 1, 2, 3, click on the fourth one, and then click on Position Animation, right? Easing will be as is. So I'm going to select the first keyframe, and I'm just going to make sure that I move this all the way to the bottom like this. Click on the second keyframe of my fourth shape and make it go all the way to the top, lined up with my canvas, just like that. Again, we're going to do this for the last one. So click the last one. 1, 2, 3, and then we click on Add Animation, Position, select the first keyframe, make sure it's turned to blue, right? And then I'm going to make it go all the way to the bottom like this. Click on the second keyframe, and then I'm going to move this all the way to the top like that. So when I go back and then play the whole thing for you, now this is how it's going to look like, right? You can see that in slow motion right here, and that's exactly what I wanted. So that would be my first group. So let's go back to the main timeline right here and then start working with transition number 2. So let's just go ahead and turn the grid, the snap to grid menu off. Open up the second group or transition number 2, and then we'll do the same for each one. So I'm going to select my first rounded rectangle and click on Add Animation, do position, we'll easing as is, right? I'm going to select my first keyframe using my keyboard again, holding my Shift key in the bottom arrow, move this all the way to the bottom just like this, selecting my second keyframe, and then I'm going to make sure that this one goes all the way to the top like that. Cool. Now I'll do the same, for this one. So I'm going to select the second layer, 1, 2, 3, Add Animation, Position, easing will be as is. So I'm going to select my first keyframe. Oops. Okay, this one will go all the way down like that. And then on the second keyframe, I'm going to move it all the way to the top like this. Go back to the first keyframe of my second layer, select the third one, 1, 2, 3 forward in time, and then click on Add Animation, Position, click on my first keyframe, and again, I'm going to move this all the way to the bottom, make sure it's lined up with my, my canvas like this. Click on the second keyframe for the third layer and move it all the way to the top on my canvas and make sure it's lined up like that. Go back and, backward in time. Again, 1, 2, 3 frames forward in time. Click on the fourth layer and then click on Add Animation, Position, first keyframe, And I'm going to position this at the bottom of my canvas like that. Second keyframe and move it all the way. So it's the same process for each layer, right? Until we're all done. So go back right here. 1, 2, 3, last one, finally. So click on Add Animation, Position, and select the first keyframe. And then we're going to make this go to the bottom of the canvas like this. Select the second keyframe, and then move this all the way to the top like this. Make sure it's lined up. So now when I go back and then play this, this is how it's going to look like, right? See that? Beautiful. Right. Next up is we're going to go back to the main timeline. And so we need to adjust the links, right? Because we don't need all this time for the transition. Transitions usually don't need that much time. They can be, 2 seconds, 3 seconds at most, 4 seconds if they're a little bit more complicated. So let's just adjust, both groups from here. Select both, and then I'm going to adjust the timing like that from here. I just want to zoom in a little. And now because they're both, they start exactly at the same time, you're not seeing the other layer that I created. It's basically just underneath it, but I don't want that. I want this one to start first, and then this one will be my second one, right? So I'm going to go back to the very beginning of this one, and let's just move 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to drag my second group to make it start, after three frames of this one. So this is how it should look like, actually. You see the first one with lower opacity, right? And then the other one will be at first. So now that I've got this covered, I'm going to select both layers or both groups, transition 1 and 2, group them up like this, rename it, and then call the transition. And let's go ahead and make sure that, so this one is going to start at 2 seconds, right? And that one, I may just want to delay it just a little like that. And let's see what that looks like, actually. So let's play this in action and show you what that looks like. First, if we need to make any adjustments, let's have a look. Okay, we seem to have a little bit of a white screen, and I think that's because maybe this one needs to be right here. Let's just go back and see what that looks like. Okay, cool. Now I can adjust this. I can make this start a little bit after like that. And I can expand this one actually like this, the first background. Go back and then increase the timing just a little like this. And then also expand the keyframe like that. Go back to the main timeline and let's see what that looks like. Because I want to have this a little bit of a different, yeah, see that? I want to have this delay in time, but looks like I need to have more time of that. Let's make it like this. Okay, let's have a look. Beautiful. Cool. And then if I want to add a text on this image, because you can see the image is vibrant with colors. So if I add a text onto it, it's going to be a little hard for me to add a text and make it hard, make it readable, right? So what I can do is I can simply just add a shape that will be a rectangle and make it full width like that. And I'm going to change its color to black, and I'll just open this up and then, decrease the opacity like this, right? And that way, when I add a text and then change its color to white, it's easy for me to use. So let's just do this. Let's have fun creating, right? You can resize it, center it. And then of course I can add an animation to it, right? So what I can do is I can, add an animation to this, and let's just go ahead and click on motion for this one. and then choose rotation. Or actually, let's use custom animation. So I'm going to select my text like that, and I'm going to click on add animation. So let's do position and rotation. I'm going to select my first keyframe. I'm going to rotate my text like this, and I'm going to position it outside of my canvas like that on the bottom. Make sure it's moved. I also move it to the left side like this. And then when I double click on the keyframe, I want to make this go by letters instead of words. And I'm going to make it go forward and then increase the letter offset to, 65% is my favorite. So let's have a look at that and see what that looks like. Cool. Pretty cool. Hope you guys have learned quite a lot in creating custom transitions using masks. You can see, it takes a little bit of time, but as you create more of it, it's going to be a lot easy for you to create. Now, when you create custom transitions using shapes, it doesn't stop, or you can be more creative about it. So you can basically, as I got a few samples for you here, you can try different shapes, right? So for me, instead of just using, for you, I'm sorry, like instead of just using the rectangle, you can use, you can use a rectangle like this and then change it to a rounded rectangle and use another layer, and decrease its opacity like this. You can use a triangle like this and also, create a duplicate for it to make one with a full opacity and then other one with less opacity or less opaque. And then you can also use this shape, right? Now, when it comes to using a triangle or this shape, you might just, like use this for a full width, like make this the full, for the full width of your screen, because like you can't have it duplicated many times right next to each other. It's going to look terrible. It can only work with a rectangle. If you make it like this, you can add, more lines like this for the rectangle and make them go one after the other, just like this one right here, right? Now, the only difference from this one and the other example is that this one is just a standard rectangle, where this one is more of a rounded edges of the rectangle. And again, so that's the only way for you to, to do this. The other way, and then you can also be more creative. So instead of having your transition happen vertically like this, you can have it, happen horizontally, right? Left or right, it's up to you. Again, you can be more creative about it. And again, feel free to use any shape and be more creative. So start creating, and it's going to be a lot easier for you as you create more. You can watch this video over and over until you make it, or follow along with me step by step, and it's going to be so easy for you. Now, the good news is that I want to share with you today is that I've uploaded, the source file of this project into the Google Drive folder that I created for my Facebook group members right here. So this will be a giveaway for you. Feel free to go ahead and download it. For those who have All Access Pass, you can download it and start using this one and replace the images with, with anything else that you want. It's already got the background music and the sound effect that I added. So feel free to use this one. And for those of you who don't know or are new to my Facebook group, this is what I want you to know about. And this is really good news for everyone who don't know about this, is that I created this Google Drive folder for my group members. And this basically contains all the giveaways that I have for my group members. So if you're inside my group and you haven't got access to this one, make sure you click on the link in the description below to get access to it. For those of you who are not inside my group, that's fine. You can still get access to it. And everyone who's basically watching this video, you can get, free access to my giveaways right here. And so I got a lot of the stuff that, for you that you can use in your videos to create great videos, right? And so I have, animated stickers and icons. I've got editable logo templates for you. Again, I created this free project. So this will be where I'm going to share with you my giveaway projects source files that I'm going to add right here. Going back, so I have, members custom requests, That was something I did a little while ago for members who requested some, custom templates and all that. So I got that for them. You also have new effects pack and then track matte transitions. Again, all of this is free for you to use. So feel free to click on the link in the description below and get a free access. So save this link and download everything that you see in here, and feel free to use them in your videos to create great and captivating videos for your audience, right? Last but not least is that I want to share with you something about my private training for CreateStudio Pro. So those of you who don't know or are inside my Facebook group, I currently have a special promo for my private training for CreateStudio Pro. And those who don't know, what I typically do right now is I provide a beginner private training course for beginners, right? For those who are not familiar with CreateStudio, who are not into animation, who are looking to get into the animation world and already have CreateStudio Pro, but don't know how to use it. Now, the great news is that you already have access to the free tutorials on the official website of CreateStudio and on their YouTube channel. But I know that tutorials, sometimes get a little bit challenging to follow along, especially if you're new to this and you don't know how to get started. Now, this is where my training comes in, right? My training basically helps you to become an expert at CreateStudio in 5 weeks. And not only you'll learn everything about CreateStudio, but you'll also going to learn how to write your own scripts, how to do storyboarding, how to do voiceover. And well, you're also going to, or we, me and you, when we get to work together, we will create your first project from A to Z. So again, I currently have a promo that is available for the next 3 days to join my next round that's going to start in March, where again, you're going to learn everything about CreateStudio Pro in 5 weeks. And you're going to become an expert. And I guarantee you this, you're going to become an expert at CreateStudio in only 5 weeks. Now, when you go onto my page, it's toonisanimation.com, and then you click on the private training page. It's going to take you to the page where it has more information about that training. You can learn more about me. And then when you scroll a little bit down, you can see a couple of projects here that I created entirely in CreateStudio Pro. And you can create all of those, with the standard version. So you don't have to be an all access pass member. If you're only having the standard version of CreateStudio, you can still create this beauty and masterpiece just with the standard version, right? So these are a couple of examples that I created entirely in CreateStudio. And then when you scroll a little bit down, you can see more information about each session, what it entails and what you should expect from me when we work together on each session. So again, these are 5 weeks training, 10 sessions. That means you're going to get 2 sessions per week for 5 weeks, which makes it 10 sessions. You can read more about each session, what you're going to learn on each session. And then if you scroll a little bit down here, you can see these are my students' testimonials. So you can watch, those videos to get to know their feedback about my training, how it helped them improve and learn everything they needed to know when they had no clue about CreateStudio and how to create animated videos. Now these guys have become experts at CreateStudio, and I'm hoping that they are doing a great job right now. They've had the training in a long time. So I'm wishing them best luck. If you scroll a bit down, you can see some of the feedback on Trustpilot. And then underneath that, these are the samples of my students' projects that they have created as we went through the training. So this is what you can expect. As we work together in the training, you or I will give you some tasks to work on each session. So because the only way for you to get better at it is by practice, right? So every time we have a session, right? I will give you an assignment or a task to work on in order for you to, to practice and start creating something like this. So go ahead and watch some of those samples and see how beautiful these videos are. Again, these are just, beginners, students, right? So I know that over time when they create more videos, they're going to be a lot more professional than what you can see in those samples. So when you scroll a little bit down here, again, this is the price. So this is the cost of my training. Unfortunately, the group training is not available at the moment. I only do the individual training. And again, I currently have a promo that is only valid for the next 3 days and 7 hours, where you can get, where you can save $200 instead of $100 that you usually see when I promote this onto my Facebook group. So the cost of the training is usually $700, but it's currently available for $500 just for the next 3 days. And then all you have to do is just click on any of the call to action buttons. This will just, get you directly in contact with me through Messenger and Facebook, and we can discuss this furthermore, right? If you scroll a little bit down here, you can see, some FAQs that you can, maybe this will help answer any of your questions. So feel free to go on those. And again, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have learned something new about creating custom transitions. Make sure if you're going to sign up for the training, again, you only have 3 days. So you just need to click on the enroll now button or any of the CTA buttons that I have on this page, and that will get you in contact with me directly on Facebook Messenger, and we can chat a little bit more about this. I am totally flexible when it comes to time, so don't worry about that. Whenever it's convenient for you, we'll just find a time that works best for both of us, right? And I'll look forward to connecting with you. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.